The Cowboys beat the Vikings 40-3.
They did.
They're now 7-3. The Vikings are 8-2. And I have some questions written down here. Micah Parsons, DPOY, and just recapping the Cowboys win. But I kind of want to speak on more of a tweet I saw from Drew yesterday during the games, and he said,
Shout out to Drew Hand.
he said, the Cowboys, they're legit, and the Vikings are frauds.
Mm-hmm.
That's the summary of your tweet.
Okay.
Right? And I want you to speak on that.
Okay.
You think the Cowboys are legit,
okay,
and the Vikings, you think they are frauds, complete frauds.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So speak on that tweet alone.
Yes.
All right. So last time we were here, I spoke on the Cowboys and their loss to the Packers and how it wasn't a loss that I'm looking at and overanalyzing because it is in Lambeau. Of course, it is Aaron Rodgers, and he's good enough to win against any team at any given moment, particularly in Lambeau Field. And not only just that, the fans were into the game. They really wanted this win, and the Packers came and showed out. Did the Cowboys blow the game up 2 scores? Absolutely. But it wasn't something that I was looking at and going to put the nail in the coffin on me taking the Cowboys and throwing them away as contenders. This was a resounding comeback, bounce-back win against a team that we sat here last week talking about, are they legit contenders now? A 40-3 ass-kicking start to finish. It wasn't even a competition. Another thing that I feel like I need to highlight, because we gave Jettis all the praise last week, deservedly so. Now it's time to give Diggs the credit he deserves, only allowing 2 catches on him. He was unbelievable against Jet. But to continue talking about the Cowboys and the ass-kicking that they gave the Vikings legitimately could not do anything. They did have a bunch of injuries to their offensive line. That's something that we do need to acknowledge. Micah Parsons was able to have his way, was absolutely all-world, did emphasize his case to be the Defensive Player of the Year. But realistically, I cannot look at Minnesota as a true contender when there are teams more complete than them and teams that I trust simply more than them. I may not be as trusting as I am with Dak Prescott or other quarterbacks in Jimmy Garoppolo, but I understand that he has done it and gone to the playoffs and won games. So that's allowed me to have more faith in the Niners than I am in a team led by Kirk Cousins. Because Kirk Cousins in primetime is simply not good. When there's pressure applied to Kirk Cousins, for some reason, Kirk Cousins does not play like the typical Kirk Cousins we see at the 1 p.m. time slot on Sundays. Now, overall, this defense, it's shaky from time to time. Some weeks it's decent. Other weeks, like the last 2 weeks that we've seen, they give up a bunch of yards, a bunch of points. It lacks consistency. I cannot trust Minnesota. But as talking on Dallas, the defense and the running aspect of the defense has been the issue. It looked very good this past Sunday. And against the pass, they're going to continue to be great. Dak Prescott with these weapons, potentially Odell Beckham coming to join them. We see the tweets. We see the recruiting they're trying to do. And Tony Pollard. I'm wearing a Zeke jersey because this is the Dallas jersey that I own. Ezekiel Elliott is my guy, but I'm here to give credit where credit is due to the Dallas Cowboys. When Dak went out and I thought he was going to be out for an extensive period of time, I was worried about this team. Cooper Rush came in, they won some ball games, shut us up real quick. The defense had done a great job of carrying the load while Dak was gone. Now Dak's gone. He's kind of struggled a bit since coming back, but this past week, he definitely looked more of himself. Tony Pollard has been unbelievable, both in the run, and now that Zeke is back playing, they got him involved in the pass game, which we thought prior to the season was going to be where he'd make his most impact. But Tony is a dual threat, can do anything you want on the field. He could be a better blocker, which is why people love Ezekiel Elliott so much. He was able to get into the end zone twice, but it speaks to the versatility of this offense. You get the power back with Zeke. You get the explosive, more acceleration type of player with Tony Pollard. And then CeeDee Lamb, potentially Odell coming. Dalton Schultz didn't have a great game, but he has been playing well since Dak Prescott came back. It's just a team that you have to be looking at and say, this is a true contender in the NFC.
For me, I don't overreact either way. When it comes to this game,
Dallas is a contender.
They are for sure. They've been a contender.
I have been very adamant week to week that I believe the Cowboys are a contender.
For sure.
They can make the Super Bowl.
For sure.
I think the Cowboys have been complete, and for me, the biggest concern was when is the offense going to find its consistency? I feel like they found it versus the Vikings. The Vikings, to me, I still view them similarly to when I viewed them last week. they're a team that when they play close, they play those games well. But their 2 losses have been to the Eagles, ass whooping, Cowboys, ass whooping. Part of me I actually don't look at Kirk Cousins in this game and say he crumbled. I don't look at it in that way because the pass rush just overwhelmed
For sure.
Minnesota.
For sure.
The first drive of the game, Micah forces a fumble on Kirk. That play was Kirk's fault. Christian Darrisaw, he did a good job on Micah. Micah's one of the best players in the league.
For sure.
Kirk had time to throw the ball away, but he held it on for too long, and Micah got the sack. And he's somebody that I think is in the lead of the DPOY race. I think it's Micah. Then I have Chris Jones second, and I have Quinnen Williams
Where's
third.
Judon?
No, he's not here for me.
Dude, leading the league in sacks, top. I think he's tied with tackles for loss with Micah. Is top 3 in total pressures.
Judon's been bowling.
No, he's been great. I just think Chris Jones has been better. I think Quinnen Williams has been better. I think
They take
Micah
sacks
Parsons
into
been better.
account tremendously,
Yeah.
and the Patriots are in a position that no one thought they would be in.
Yeah, but my 3 right now are Micah, Chris Jones, and Quinnen. I do think Micah has a cushion right now.
He is the favorite
But
right now.
I want to give Chris Jones his flowers because Chris Jones has been the best defensive tackle in football this season. Even better than Aaron Donald. I know that it's crazy. Aaron Donald's been the best.
It doesn't matter.
I look
to
at
me.
Chris Jones, and he's been out of this world.
He's been number 2.
Yeah, to me, number 1. But the discrepancy in this game, Cowboys 458 total yards to Minnesota's 183. And the pass rush just overwhelmed Minnesota all game long.
Absolutely.
And when Christian Darrisaw went out, they had their backup left tackle, and this made me question Kevin O'Connell's play calling and just his adjustments in game because he left his left tackle out there on an island by himself with Micah Parsons routinely.
That's food.
The offensive line could not protect Kirk. Kirk would get out of his 3-step drop, and there would already be somebody in his face. The running game was not going either. And Dalvin Cook, even later in the game, you could just see the frustration. He had a big-time run, and it got called back because of a unnecessary roughness call that he had. They were already out the game anyway. But to me, it's just, I look at the Cowboys. I look at the Vikings, and 1 for 11 on third down. The offense was stale. They couldn't get the run game going.
Anything.
And I do think that they leaned into it a little bit too heavily in the game. A lot of the drives started out run, pass, and putting Kirk Cousins in those situations isn't favorable on third down to be Superman on third and long. Kirk Cousins is what he is. He's a system quarterback. He's a great system quarterback, but he cannot make plays out of structure. So if everything around him isn't perfect, then we do see performances like we saw versus Dallas where the offense looks completely stale. I know that the primetime numbers don't look great because he's lost a lot in primetime. I think a lot of that is due to just when you're playing 1 p.m. games, it tends to be easier opponents. And in primetime, it's better opponents.
That's very true.
And
also.
Kirk Cousins usually doesn't have the offensive line that can contain defensive lines. And if you can win up front, you wreck the entire game for a quarterback. Kevin O'Connell didn't impress me this game. And I left this game saying that Minnesota has to do whatever they can to get Odell Beckham. Because when Jettis gets taken out the game, KJ, Thielen, Hawkinson, they cannot consistently win one-on-one. You can't trust them. Hawkinson is a great option, third option, not a second one. I think Minnesota needs one more option. And then their defense. Pollard was amazing.
Ugh.
But let's just break down 2 of his touchdowns. The first one was Dak hitting him in the flat. Pollard just straight lines to the end zone, 30 yards, untouched. He gets a touchdown. I thought that just was poor effort from Minnesota. I don't know how he was that open. And then the other touchdown was a wheel route. He beats Jordan Hicks, and he just smokes him. Dak lays it right on him, and that's a touchdown. I thought those were breakdowns by Minnesota defensively, and that's why I can't trust them consistently, because they'll have these breakdowns. And then they were getting gashed in the run. You had CeeDee Lamb before halftime have a big-time play that set up a Brett Maher field goal.
60-yarder.
And you look at that, I'm like, how does Minnesota let something like that up with such little time? And then later in the game, Noah Brown beats Andrew Booth on this double move, and they get another big-time play, and Zeke gets a touchdown there. I look at those plays, and Minnesota is going to let up a ton of yards. They already do. But they have been a defense that situationally they have been better versus Dallas. They weren't. Just all around an ass kicking, though. The defense was giving up big-time plays left and right. The offense, it was 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out consistently. And Dallas, they were passing the ball well. I thought the run game really was a catalyst for them. And using Dak Prescott in designed runs, Dak was much more mobile this game. And Dak looks back. I think last year after he had his ankle injury, you can kind of like see he was a little bit limited. It looks like Dak is completely healthy, and they're trusting him on these quarterback design runs, and that opens up the Dallas Cowboys offense. There's a brand new fantasy app. It's called Boom Fantasy. You got over-unders, player props. You got matchups. This player versus that player. That's personally my favorite, and long shots. You can win 40 times your money, and if I'm not mistaken, Joel, NBA is coming soon.
Yes, sir. NBA will be in the app in the next 10 days or so. Wow. I believe opening night is October 19th, so we'll have stuff up a few days beforehand. That's going to be fun because we have it every night. You don't have to wait till Monday, Thursday.
Did you get your code? The League Pass?
I did get my code for League Pass.
I got my code too.
Yep, that's amazing.
That's from 2K, right?
Yes.
That's tough.
Amazing.
That's fire.
So if you guys haven't already, download the Boom Fantasy app right now. Link is in our description or in the caption wherever you're watching.
This Cowboys team is starting to remind me about the early years with Dak, where Dak, while he is the quarterback and he is the star, especially now compared to his rookie year, now it's really relied on this running game and this defense, who's number one in scoring defense. Even at Dallas's best years, they weren't number one. And you have Tony Pollard really break out and be that superstar running back, which is what the Cowboys really founded on those first couple of years with Dak. Dak put up crazy numbers, great efficiency, did not turn the ball over, but Zeke came in that same draft class and he was carrying this offense. Now Zeke, a few years older, they have Tony Pollard who could do the same thing. It feels very much like when Breece Hall broke on for the Jets earlier this year, and all of a sudden they have a guy in the backfield who at any time could take it 50, 60 yards and get you easy touchdowns. Now, while the offensive line isn't as good as it was in 2016, I mean, we're talking about one of the best offensive lines we've seen in the last 10 years. It's getting there with this team. Tyler Smith probably just had his best game of the season so far, allowing 0 pressures, his highest PFF grade. Micah Parsons on the defensive line, back-to-back games of 8+ pressures. I agree. I think he's the clear-cut favorite right now for Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, having 2 game changers like that on defense with him and Diggs, who wasn't lined up against Jettas the entire game, but to hold Jettas, regardless if you're lined up against him or not, to under 50 yards has to be a win as a defense. And right now, they're top 3 in terms of turnover differential. They're top 10 in terms of takeaways. Their defense is making plays. They're getting the ball back in the hands of the offense. And I agree, Dak looks much more comfortable now than he did this time last year. The ankle injury, not only the rehab and, all of what goes into that, but just the fear, honestly. Like, these are grown athletes. These are guys who are some of the most fearless players, in the world. You're going out there, you're colliding every single play. But I feel like that's probably taking a backseat too now, where he's not as worried whether it's taking a weird slide or getting hit strange or falling a certain way. He feels much more comfortable, not only in the pocket, but moving as well. He looked not as mobile, for lack of better terms, last year than he did this year. So overall, I mean, I've always been on the Cowboys this year. The way their defense is playing is not what I was expecting. I would not expect them to be this great, right? I know they had a couple good players with Micah and Trayvon Diggs, but overall this defense is playing exceptional.
Lawrence,
DeMarcus Lawrence as well. So right now, Drew, I agree with you. I don't look at Minnesota. We actually got crucified in the comments of the last time we talked about Minnesota. Oh, you guys didn't watch the game. What are you talking about? And what we said came true. Like, this team against elite teams, what is Minnesota's identity going to be? How are they going to win these really important games when Kirk's a great statistical quarterback, but he's not an elite quarterback. He's not someone that you can't trust him to win consistently against elite teams, elite defenses, especially in these primetime games and eventually in the playoffs. That's just not how you're going to win. Do you want to hand the ball off to Dalvin 20, 25 times a game? It's not a bad game plan, but it's not something the Vikings have also shown a consistency in doing. And we saw the defense just left 40 points to the Cowboys offense, who, don't get me wrong, it's a really good offense. It's not in that top 3 with, the Chiefs, Dolphins, the Eagles, those type of guys. So I do look at the Vikings as I said they were in the same tier as the Giants. I think they could be first round's exit very easily, just like the Giants can. I would take them over the Giants, but I don't trust them like I do 3 or 4 of the other NFC playoff teams.
Yeah, I agree with you to a degree. Offensively, just the Vikings walking into the playoffs, they don't have an offensive line. And when you don't have that against certain matchups, like you said, they can be bounced out. We just seen what Dallas did to them. We seen what Philly did to them. I mean, they beat the Bills. It was a great, impressive win. But we all watched that game. It was more the Bills making a lot of mistakes that they usually don't make. To briefly talk about, the Vikings, they had a great season. They'll probably win a division, but in the playoffs, they're just not that scary team that you're looking like they're not the Niners if they're healthy. They're not the Cowboys if they're healthy. They're not the Eagles. They're just not in that tier. And it's okay, though. They've had a great season. Talk about Dallas. Oh, man, I hate this shit.
You worried about them?
You're worried
about them? They're stacked. They're scary.
This is the best game I've seen from them all year. You talk about Odell to Minnesota. If Odell goes to Dallas,
It's a dub.
that would make, because
Now I'm back in on CD.
The one worry with me for Dallas was their wide receiver room. Like, can they consistently get guys to make plays or become? Because when you look at the Rams last year, what they had on defense, 2 game changers. And I'm not saying Diggs is Ramsey, no. But he can be that. And Parsons and Donald, right now, Parsons is just as dominant as Donald right now. Like they have
easy.
Parsons got me.
He's him. Yeah, he's him, but he's not Donald.
They have 2 game changers on the defensive end. So when you have 2 game changers, you don't need as many pieces because those 2 guys make you consistently better. They make you work. The only thing I'm not too feared because I think our offensive line is much better than the Vikings. So being that it's better than the Vikings, I think we have the people that can contain. You watched that first time we met him, Lane Johnson versus Michael Parsons. Lane Johnson did a phenomenal job against Michael Parsons before he went out. So I think offensive line, that's why I'm not too scared because our offensive line is just as good. But offensively, like if they get a guy like Odell in there, you got Odell, you got CeeDee Lamb, now Gallup and Noah Brown become the 3rd and 4th guys. It's a tough team, man. I truly think Dallas should definitely go in that Odell sweepstake. I think he should go there. That would give him an easy chance. But this Dallas team is really fucking good.
I would like to see him in Dallas for sure, but I'm sure
him in Dallas is nuts.
All my Giant supporters would not be happy.
And I don't think we're gonna have Goddard for that second matchup.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
he'll be back by the regular season, but I don't know how long.
Do you know what week you're playing?
They said late.
Goddard has been very essential for you guys.
We love tight ends over here, man.
Sure. I mean, rightfully so. I mean, Goddard's legit.
Goddard was nice even when Ertz was there. People were talking huh?
When
Ertz was like above him.
Oh, yeah. Well, he was, but Goddard was him.
Let me see. Is Goddard locked top 5? You have Kelsey. You have Andrews. You have Are you putting Kittle or are you putting?
I would say Goddard.
I think Kittle and Goddard is very close. I think it is.
It is a conversation.
Putting Pitts or
Kittle
Goddard?
has not done anything to separate.
I like
right
Pitts
now.
more.
Yes,
like in a vacuum,
yes,
I would take
yes,
Pitts,
I
but like the
understand.
production was not.
And like in our offense, Pitts or Goddard?
Pitts. Oh my God.
Yeah.